Welcome to the Leslie Monday Podcast, a show for lovers of all things science fiction in books, TV, and movies. Each week, we'll review something new or dive into an old favorite. So come join me. I'm Leslie, and it's Monday. Welcome to the Leslie Monday Podcast. I'm Leslie, and today is episode 0.4, my review and discussion of The Expanse, Season 4, and this is the last sort of soft opening podcast that I'm going to do before the official launch on January 4th, and I'm going to be going live, but not exactly in exact concert with The Expanse, which already premiered on December 16th, but I'm going to be going episode by episode for you. I'm going to be compiling any suggestions you sent to me of sci-fi television books or movies that you'd like me to review here, and there will be polls for those over on the Patreon at the $1 level. So, Season 4 of The Expanse. This is one that I think you either loved it or you didn't. I heard a lot of mixed reviews. I mean, overall, mostly good, but it really was one of those seasons that you loved it, you hated it, it felt like a reset, and in a way it kind of is. I think that a lot of the people who have read the books can agree. We'll see, like, knock on wood, there'll probably be somebody out there who won't, but most people agree that book 4 is kind of the weaker outing, especially compared to the previous 3 books that came before it, and I think that shows in the season. There's no way to really get around that these previous books that you had were so strong, and this one really is, like, it kind of hits the brakes and slams into a brick wall with the main storyline, which is our Rossi team on the planet Illis, or perhaps you call it New Terra. My favorite parts about this season, though, are all tied to the groundwork that we're laying in here for Season 5, because Book 5 is fantastic, and I am really excited to see how the show will reflect that, or, what they're going to do and how they're going to incorporate Book 5 into the season and somehow wrap up with a good ending at the end of Season 6, since we know that they have said they're going to end with Season 6. So I am excited for all of that. Book 4 is mostly a Western. New settlers on the new planet, one of the ones we gained access to via the ring gates. And I understand why people watching the show have said it's like a soft reboot, because it really is. But with all that said, I still feel that overall it is a good season. It fits well within our Expanse universe, and I was happy to get it. I was excited that Amazon decided they were going to pick it up and that they were going to continue. And I think they did a really good job. Of course, the quality of all of the scenery, the sets, costume design, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is all just as good as it was before. So I don't think we lost anything by getting moved to Amazon. I think it was simply just sort of a reset. We thought we were going to be canceled. We wanted to really finish out that trilogy of books. And then, well, hey, the next book is this Western, and it is understandably a little bit slower and a little bit of a different pace for the show in particular. In episode 1, New Terra, we open right up with the Belters, who are trying to hurry and rush to get through one of the rings to settle on a planet. It's just like Holden said at the end of Season 3, it's going to be a gold rush to get out there, and the powers that be are being really cautious, because who knows what's out there. Weapons, more blue goo, more protomolecule. Could the aliens that built them be out there? And this season, really, for me, is kind of the beginning of Avasarala's fall from grace for me. She's really hardlining all the policies to not travel through the rings out of fear, and the actions she takes during the election campaign in this season really kind of seal the deal that she loses that number 1 spot for me. I do understand the fear and that they don't know what's out there, and because of everything that they've previously experienced in the prior seasons. But I don't think you need to allow fear to guide your decisions and keep them from doing anything at all. Even research. I know that they said and mentioned in one of the episodes they send out probes and nothing's come back yet, but I feel like they could be taking more steps, like if they focus on a particular ring gate, focus it with a lot of probes, and then maybe send people through to particular ones, but not this hardline stance of not letting anybody through at all. And Nancy Gao does make a point about the overpopulation on Earth and how this could provide people with jobs and opportunities. And, it's a good point taken, because as we will see, I'll say we'll see in season 5, I do believe they should show that it does create a little bit of an economic boom for them as they get to go through the ring gate. Now, one of the things I've seen some people in a little bit of a tizzy over is Bobby's arc for this season, and how after the court-martial and her actions in the previous seasons, that she's no longer a Marine, and they don't have her in the military anymore. But I actually think it's a really clever move for the part of the writers to give her this arc, and it gives us a face to focus on for the groundwork that they're laying for season 5. So if you haven't read the book or any of the other stuff that goes into what's leading up to season 5, I think it was a really smart move to think, what are we going to do with Bobby? We want to keep her around. She's a familiar face that we've all seen. And what better way than to have her be in, like, working her way into this black market scheme and following her, and then that way, as they've done and shown us their exceptional ability to do in previous seasons, to have 2 different perspectives or more, kind of pulling on the same thread from different ends, and they'll eventually end up together. And that's kind of where Bobby's the Martian perspective, and then Ashford and Drummer are the Belter perspective, and we see them all eventually come together. And for me, this is the most interesting storyline within season 4. And it also is so interesting to me, but also so sad to start to see the fall of Mars, because we get to see more of Mars, but then we also see, it's slowly slipping away, basically, that dream of Mars, and it's really sad. And I know at some point, one of the characters does say the dream of Mars is dead. It died the instant that those gates opened. And it's really true. And just, they don't even have to do anything. Just what you see in the background as Bobby's walking up and down a corridor. And you can see what's taking place in the shops and things behind her. You can see how that dream of Mars really is dying. And it's really sad. One change that we get this season that I don't agree with, and I'm just going to go ahead and give you my opinion. I do not like the recasting of Avasarala's husband Arjun from Brian George to Michael Benier, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I do believe that they recast him because it was scheduling conflicts with Brian George, and there's no disrespect, I feel like, intended to Michael, but this was a terrible recast. Absolutely terrible. He does not convey that same sense of warmth and quiet strength that Brian George does. And I don't know. I can't decide, having seen the season, if I would have rather that they give a script plot reason why Arjun isn't there and just entirely not have him in the season at all, or if maybe if they had cast someone else, it would have worked better. But that, for me, is probably the only misstep that was made for the season, was his recasting. Because there are plenty of times in the scenes with him and Sheree that when I'm watching it, he is taking away from the scene. He's not adding to it. And his portrayal of Arjun and Christian's relationship, it's not building anything better. It really is taking away from the scene and takes you out of it. And it's terrible to watch. And then that kind of compounds on the fact that I'm already not particularly invested in Avasarala's storyline this season, because it is her fall from grace, and it's growth for her character, right? But it's not a storyline I'm totally invested in and interested to see, and then we add in the recast of Arjun, and it kind of compounds the fact that this storyline's kind of like, meh, I'm not really that invested, and I can't get into the scenes with him in it. I just cannot connect with him whatsoever. So aside from that, if you loved him, that's great. If you thought that recast was better and you hated Brian George, but I don't agree, and we can agree to disagree. For me, season 4, here's also a hot take. Season 4 is mostly filler for me, honestly. And I don't mean that in a bad way, like that the episodes aren't as good as last season's, or the writing isn't as good, or that the acting's declined in some way. It's just that the major storyline for season 4, right, is everything that's going on with the Belters on Illis, or New Terra, whichever you're going to call it. And that's the main plot point. And frankly, it doesn't interest me at all. And I'll be honest, it didn't interest me in the book either. I really had to force myself to get through the book because I knew that there were several books after it, and I wanted to read that one just to have the completeness of I've read all of the books. And it's definitely one that I would skip on a reread. If I go back and reread them, book 4 is not one that I'm like, I've got to read that one in order to know what's going to happen in book 5 or book 6. No, that's definitely a on the skip pile. We'll never have to read it again. and it being the major storyline for this season means that the more time that's given, because it's the major storyline, the most time is given to it throughout the season, and it just doesn't interest me at all. I'm one of those people who would probably like to have them just cut all of the other storyline pieces, Avasarala's pieces, Bobby on Mars, Drummer and Ashford, and just paste all of those together, and I could skip everything going on New Terra entirely and be okay with it. Now, I don't want that to be, like, again, a disservice to the actors. I think our Rossi team is great, and everything that they do on the planet is great, but, it's just not that interesting to me. The storylines that they go through, I'm like, yeah, we get proto-molecule Miller, and we see a little more what's going on there, and we get some more of Jim and Naomi's relationship, and we see some more from Amos, but none of it, the sum total of anything that happens on that planet, is really enough to interest me more than what's going on with Bobby and her black market stuff, and then Drummer and Ashford, and finding Marco Inaros, and pulling on that string from the other side. Like, it's not enough to be more interesting than that to me. So, take it or leave it. If you were like me, and maybe that part didn't interest you so much, I can understand if you think, well, like season 4, it's not that interesting, and maybe you could skip it, or you were disappointed with it. But I, again, having already read the books and knowing what was coming, I knew that they're going to get through it. And having seen the previous seasons and how well they foreshadow what's to come and lay the groundwork for things within seasons, I was excited because I knew that they would be laying groundwork for season 5 into this. And of course, I got exactly what I was expecting, and they gave us a lot of good sprinkled in things for season 5. So it was good for me. Okay, let's see. Yes, the proto-molecule storyline. I'm looking at my bullet points again. The proto-molecule storyline, again, because it's on the planet, doesn't interest me that much. Same thing for Avasarala's storyline. It is a struggle for her character, and I know it's on purpose, right? I know it's on purpose that now she is the one in charge, and we get to see that Avasarala's skills don't lie in being the one in charge in the spotlight, right? We see her at her peak, at her strength in the first 3 seasons, when she is behind the scenes, the second or third in command, being able to, work in the shadows. And now, of course, she's front and center as the Secretary General, and she struggles. It's not her strength to be in this position, and she makes lots of mistakes. So I understand that all of these mistakes and everything that she's going through this season is character growth for her character. But again, the recast of Arjun and it just doesn't interest me that much. It's another part that I'm like, I could skip it. I could just skip past this and just know that that's what's going on with her and give me more of Bobby, please. So I feel bad saying that, as because I'm sure that some people maybe didn't watch The Expanse until, it's on Amazon, and they saw all the commercials and whatnot for it and then decided to watch or react to it, and then were completely in love with season 4 and it was great. But I'm still just, I'm season 5, I'm on that train, chug, 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 getting to season 5. That's what I wanted. And trust me, every time I saw something in the background, even like a label on something that I knew was like, oh, that's for season 5. I'm so excited. I was grinning like a big idiot watching it. It was great. Okay, what does interest me the most in this season? Let's focus on some positives. Is everything that Bobby and Ashford and Drummer are doing. This mystery that they're both pulling on from those opposite sides, trying to figure out, what is Marco Inaros up to, and all those hints that we get for season 5 when Bobby goes to, just all you have to do is leave the door unlocked. Isai and that little girl, whatever her name is, just leave the door unlocked. We'll come in. It's not weapons. And she goes to check it out first. And you see that tight beam encryption thing. And I'm like, oh my God, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. I'm so excited. If you've read the books, right? You've read the books, you know what's going to come. And I'm very excited to see how they handle it. If you haven't read the books and you're like, all these stupid people who already know because you don't want to know ahead of time and you just want to be surprised, I'm sorry, but I had to inhale the books like air that I breathe, and this one was a good one. It was a good one. So I'm hoping that season 5 will really live up to it. And something else I wanted to touch on with Bobby's storyline this season is that I know that she's kind of in the classic soldier returns home from war, and kind of that fish out of water and seeing how things have changed. But a lot of what the imagery that we see with her and when she's meeting that guy at the bar and they're drinking and talking, maybe it's just me, but I get a lot of vibes of when I graduated in that 08-09, right into the downturn of the economy, how depressing it was, and out of control that you feel, like that lack of control of your life. It doesn't matter that you went to college and got this degree that society demanded that you have. Now it's useless because you and like 50 other people are all trying to get the same Kroger bagger job or something like that. And there's more people than there is opportunity to go around. And I think you start to see that, especially they're talking about how when she goes to the Veterans Affairs place to try and find a job, and I've never seen so many unemployed people before, and how there's more and more of the military getting sent back home, and there's just not enough jobs for them, and people are getting more and more invested in investigating these ring gates and setting up colony ships. And that's what Isai's whole plan is that he wants to be on the way and at the forefront to go through those ring gates and colonize. He doesn't want to be left behind because he knows what's going to happen. Because why would anybody stay and try and terraform Mars when they can go through that ring and go to an already habitable planet? What's the point of that? And I believe he's the one who said that the dream of Mars is dead. It's over as soon as those ring gates opened. And I don't know if that's just like a weird stretch to make, but that's what it really reminded me of, was just thinking about that downturn of the economy and how there's all those people and not enough jobs and et cetera, et cetera. It just had that sad sort of feeling to it that reminded me of that. Something else I wanted to mention, I was really impressed with the casting and introduction of Marco Inaros. I was afraid, because he's so well written antagonist in the book, that they wouldn't be able to find someone to either, one, good enough to play him and really pull it off, or two, that in trying to write him in the same way that they have in the book, that it wouldn't translate to TV. Sometimes a villain who's really good in book form, maybe, or comic book form, and it doesn't translate when you try and make that jump from the page to the screen. But I think they did a really amazing job. I really like the actor, Keon Alexander, I believe is his name. He's such a good job. I love all of his his speeches whenever he's in that airlock and he makes that speech and you're like, "Oh, he is good and he's dangerous," because he's such a charismatic speaker that he is very good and they've got to watch out for him, and I hope they're watching out for him in season 5. You all are going to get tired of hearing me say that. You're like, "Thank God the next episode will be the start of season 5 and she can just gush over that." But he is such a good master manipulator. I'm very excited to see what he does. So overall, I think this review is probably a shorter one just because, again, the large chunk of this season being all the stuff that happens on Illis, not that interesting to me, frankly. And I feel like I'm probably crazy saying that, and you're like, "Oh my God." But, it is what it is. Overall, the season still is a good one, and there are a lot of amazing episodes and fantastic character development. But I don't have a standout favorite scene or episode this time around. And again, definitely more interested in the Bobby and Ashford storyline than I am in the rest. I think Ashford and Bobby together move up the character chain for me this season. I don't know that I have an overall, I could point to one specific character and say they're my favorite for the season, but maybe Bobby and Ashford can share that title at the top there, just because of their storylines. Because, again, Avasarala's storyline, it's her going through some character development. And this season, it actually really does remind me of when I watched the sci-fi Battlestar Galactica and we had Laura Roslin, and how I loved her character the first season or two. And once we got into a particular storyline with her, I really started to hate her character. I did not start to like her anymore. And eventually by the end of season 4 with Battlestar, she was back in my good graces and I liked her character again. But she did go through some stuff where I did not like her whatsoever. So I'm hoping that Avasarala's transition will be a little smoother than hers, and that I can fall back in love with her this next coming season and not have to not like her for a long period of time. As always, you can let me know your thoughts and send me comments or questions. All my social media links are on my website at lalunsford.com, or you can write into me at thelesliemondaypodcast@gmail.com. And you can write into me and tell me how crazy you think I am for not liking season 4 quite as much, because I was in total anticipation for season 5. But tune in next time for my official launch. It'll be January 4th on Monday. We will be starting with season 5 of The Expanse, episode by episode. And then once we go through that, make sure that you're sending in me suggestions, because otherwise the next thing that we do after that, it's just going to be whatever I decide to pick. So tune in next time, and until then, I hope you have a great one.